Greetings, beautiful souls, all of you empaths, light workers, highly sensitive people, intuitives out there. I know that with the upcoming presidential inauguration in the United States, there is a lot of tension, a lot of energy, a lot of fear, anger, despair, many, many things floating around. And even if you're not living in the United States, and I am now no longer doing that, we can still feel it wherever we are because it has a resounding effect. So it felt really important for me to try to tap into that energy, try to talk through some of that energy with you. And I hope that this is helpful. It doesn't take away that there may be difficult things that go on. There may be really challenging things for you, your family, that affect the people who you love, and just know that I'm holding you in deepest, deepest regard. I pulled two decks today that felt really important, and these are the ones I go to when there's a difficult situation. So I have some that are like, ooh, more love and light. These are deep. So we're going to go deep into this. The first one is the Isis Oracle. Okay. Isis is like hardcore shadow work, that kind of thing. And it seems very appropriate for us at this point. The other one is Sacred Rebels because regardless of where you are in this process, we need to resist, and we need to resist as spiritual seekers, as spiritual leaders. We need to say no to destructive behavior, destructive choices. So the first one, Isis, is really going to help us to look at our own self within, what's going on within us. And the second one is looking at our external work that we're going to be doing during this next 4 years of a Trump presidency. So let's get started. I have not pre-selected these cards. I don't even know what's going to come up, but we ask Isis to please show us what is the inner work we need to do. Okay, this one really wanted to fly forward. All right, so the first card that comes out is Truths Unveiled. I'm going to hold it on this side so there's not a shadow. Um, that seems like it's going to be really appropriate. It seems like everything in our world that we used to see was kind of hidden underneath. Maybe people knew that the systems and structures we've been living in are exploitative, inequitable, but now everything's being revealed, right? So we know, here she is, and this is genderless, but this is sort of a divine feminine energy. Um, she's really tapping in and going, something's not right here. Something's going on. I know something's going on. And there's this secret here held in this pot. You can even see that this being looks like a person, but has the head of mm, maybe a horse, a donkey, or some other kind of animal of that nature. And that would kind of be appropriate, the donkey, right? So, we have like a mask that's being put over things. It looks all shiny and perfect. There's this beautiful smoke coming out, but she's like, no, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. And I think during this next few weeks and during the next 4 years or whatever length of time that this goes on, we're going to have to be very discerning. We're going to have to look through what the media is telling us, what anyone is trying to tell us. We're going to have to look for ourselves. We're going to have to sense in. We're going to have to feel into our body. We're going to have to tap into our third eye and really get clear about what is being sold here and what is being propagandized. I just think there's going to be a lot of truths unveiled. It's going to be very uncomfortable for the collective. It's going to be very uncomfortable for those people who've been hiding secrets. But it's also going to be really important for us to pull back the veil, so to speak, and really show what's actually happening. Um, really tap into, okay, how are we setting up our our economic system? How are we setting up our educational system? How are we setting up our healthcare system? There's many, many issues that did not get addressed by either party, may I say, but worse by the Republican Party. Um, And I'm just going to be like straight up. I am a progressive. I voted for Jill Stein. I didn't vote for either one of them. And you can have whatever feelings you want to have about that. But having taught conscious leadership for 25 years, I could not, in good conscience, vote for any candidate who is funding war, genocide, or the corporatocracy, if you will. So, there were many truths that are being unveiled. I'm not talking about conspiracy theories. I'm talking about things that we have evidence for, things that we can see are not the way that we thought they were. So thank you, Isis, for showing the next card, which is initiation. And it's so interesting because this came up. I did a client reading earlier today, and actually this came up, the initiation card. Initiation is a card that makes us go, oh shit. Like, really, I've already been through so much. Why do I have to go through something again? And this is a collective initiation. It may also be an initiation individually. An initiation, I like the word, life stage transition or, because initiation kind of is a very hyper masculine idea. Like you have to go through like living on your own in the desert for 5 days and trying to survive in order to prove that you're, a man or a woman or an adult or whatever. And this is really, more about the balancing of the masculine and feminine energies within. You see, here's a more masculine. And again, we have this headdress, the hidden things. And she's looking now in this last card, she had her eyes closed, but now she's looking straight ahead, right? And, we have these different parts of ourselves. We have these parts of ourselves that think what we believe to be like really dark or evil thoughts, things that we wish would harm another person so they don't harm other people. There's a lot of that kind of going on, people talking about, man, I wish, the bullet was just a couple inches closer, these kind of things that we have inside of us. We have a darkness, we have a part of ourselves that really taps into that aspect as empaths of whether you want to call it revenge or karmic justice or whatever it may be. This is an initiation for all of us. How are we going to react? How are we going to respond? How are we going to show up? What is our presence going to be during this time when things are going to be chaotic and nasty and hateful and racist and sexist, and we know what's coming, or at least we think we know what's coming. I think there's a lot of things that we probably don't even realize are probably going to happen. And some of those things are going to be positive, and some of those things may be really, really harmful. But the initiation card is like, well, how strong are you? How deeply tied in to your core values are you? Do you know who you are? Do you know what you'll tolerate? Do you know when to stay and fight? Do you know when to go and leave? These are questions that people are going to be asking themselves inside with wide open eyes, looking consciously, making those conscious decisions. This is a chapter also collectively as an initiation. Are we going to continue this cycle of authoritarianism? Are we going to continue to, put up leadership that is just the strong man archetype versus compassion, leadership from the bottom up, uplifting other people? And this is what I've been teaching about for many years. And so, this is an initiation on a personal level for each of us. Some of us may have lost relationships with family because of the election, because of what's going on right now. Some of us may lose relationships with friends or colleagues. We may decide the place we're working is supporting the wrong things and we don't like that. And we can't support that anymore with our time and energy and labor. There's lots of things that will get shifted and adjusted during this time. And let's see, one more, please. And this is called Life Restored. Life Restored. Okay, it's a scarab beetle, very powerful signal. Maybe this is something that really resonates with you. If you have past life remembrances of Egypt or the Middle East or the Mesopotamia, those kinds of things. And below it, it says priestess of the phoenix. So we know that the phoenix, the legend of the phoenix is a bird that every single day on a 24-hour cycle will completely burn down to a pile of ashes. And then in the morning, with the rising sun, the first ray of the sun touches, and it is reborn into this magnificence. And it's a cycle that continues over and over and over. Damn it. But life restored means that everything is not lost. Okay, everything is not lost, my friends. There's going to be many positive things. It's hard to think about that, but there will be positive things that will come out of this situation. And I believe that a lot of people's eyes are going to be opened. And I believe that society will begin to readjust itself. Because if the United States does not change some fundamental things about its culture, and I will talk about that more in another video, having lived abroad now, it will not survive as it is now. Every empire has a cycle of death and rebirth, every single one, every single one. So at one point, the United Kingdom was an empire, and now they're a key player in the world, but they're not as dominant as others. At one point, there was the Persian Empire, and that's not as dominant anymore. So, and the Roman Empire, and you can go on and extrapolate. But they all fell. They all fall because there's an overreach. There's greed. There's trying to be everywhere and do everything and be dominant and all of those kinds of things we've been talking about. And once that fails, once it doesn't work anymore, once the system isn't working anymore, then there's nothing else to do but to reinvent ourselves. And so I believe as a society, as a human society, as a global society, we are reinventing ourselves. We're reinventing who has power. We're in the process of reinventing, who has control of their resources. Many indigenous people and those who support them are rising up and saying, no, it's not okay anymore for you to be dominant and to be taking these things by force. We're not doing colonization anymore. So there's a lot of really positive awarenesses that are coming through, and we're not seeing a lot of action being taken on making those changes into a more just, loving, and collective society. But it's coming. Okay, people are starting to wake up. They're starting to understand what's going on. And let's tap into the sacred rebels now that we're talking about taking action. And the first one is receiving. What a beautiful card. Her cup is full. She's ready to drink. Look at the beautiful energy that's surrounding. It's a sacred, I don't know the word I want to say. I guess I grew up in the Lutheran church and Christianity is communion. Okay. But not communion in the sense of a dogma. Communion in a sense that when you start to believe in a more collective way of looking at society, an interconnected way of looking at our world, our ecosystem, our solar system, our galaxy, each other, the matrix of connections between us, we do need to be able to reach out and ask for help from others. And we do need to receive that. So if some people are a little stronger at this time, they've got a little more oomph behind them, they have a little more resources. How can we help those who may not feel as strong at this time, or may be in despair, or may even experience oppression through some of the things that are going to happen? So we need to learn how to receive. We need to learn how to ask for help. We also need to set this powerful collective intention into the universe that we want to drink from this different cup, that we want this nectar of a world that is equitable and just and loving and kind, and every person is seen as equally valuable. There's no superiority based on race, gender, religious, belief system, whatever it is. No more of that, right? Sort of John Lennon's Imagine. She's really tapping in to that creative space where we can begin to develop small pockets of people who are like-minded, who believe in the same kind of leadership, shared resources, fairness, equity, care for our planet, care for each other. And we can begin to, receive that love and that nurturing as we tap into these kind of communities. This is going to be vitally important over the next 4 years. And we're going to have to be creative, perhaps, about where we get community like that. I mean, you already see the United States government is shutting down TikTok because so many young people were talking about social issues, foreign policy, and disagreeing with the US government. And this is not the only country that is trying to shut down the voices of people. So we are going to need to find creative ways to be in those communities, to practice what it is that we believe in. It's really, really important. Let's see what else the Sacred Rebels have for us. Thank you for being here, my friends. I know this is not an easy topic. You don't have to agree with everything I'm talking about either. You don't have to agree with me politically. This is my perspective and how I'm reading the cards. All right, so this one is diving for the light. Okay, diving for the light. Now that seems strange because if you dive, scuba dive into water, the further down you get, the darker it goes, right? But what's interesting at the bottom of the ocean is there are many creatures that are phosphorescent. They glow in the dark. And really, that's what you're going to have to be, my friends. That's what we're all going to have to be, is a creature that's glowing in the dark. And here's the seahorse, which is a beautiful, beautiful creature, a very unusual creature, kind of rare, right? And this is how I see like empaths, light workers, healers, kind of a rare sort of creature, really diving in, diving in. So this card comes on top of the initiation card, right? The initiation card. So when we're diving for the light, we're looking at our shadow, we're witnessing the shadow of other people, and we're finding those relationships, spaces, communities, inner qualities that will allow us to shine. Because if we allow them to dim our light, then we have lost. Okay, we haven't passed the initiation. And it's hard. I mean, sometimes we don't feel shiny. We just don't. We feel dulled and like a freaking empathic sponge, taking in all this crap and all this hatred and all these things and fear on the internet, within family systems, around in our community, wherever it may be. But it's so important for us to keep focusing on that light, keep focusing that on the idea that even in the darkest times, there are people doing good things. There are people who are loving, who are kind. And it's not just one or two people, it's like billions and billions of humans who are lights around the world. And it's so important to remember that, to remember to gather together, to ask for help when we need it, to give help when we can offer it, to live out those ideals. Because we won't get to a new place as a global society, as a US society, unless people are changing it from within. And I don't mean you have to stay in a horrible job just to try to change the system. I don't mean that. I don't mean that you have to stay in a horrible relationship to try to change someone. But literally, by your presence, you will affect others around you. The way that you radiate your energy out is going to change things. And I wanted to share this. Yeah, here it is. Seeing the true you. The true you in all of its nakedness, all of its vulnerability, our good parts, our bad parts. We don't have good and bad parts. All of our parts. The ones we don't like as much, the ones we really like a lot more, and finding a way to have the relationship with the parts of us we don't like as much. And then really just allowing people to see this. Because when we show up authentically, as I am right now, there will be some people who will stay and some people who will go. And that's really what we're doing, is we're filtering out who are our people, who are our communities, where are our resources, how do we organize, how do we continue to fight this fight, if you will. but with love, with energy, with passion, speaking truths, unveiling truths, talking about what's real, talking about what's real in the economy, talking about what's really going on, what politicians are really doing behind the scenes with big corporations and billionaire donors, talking about all those things, supporting alternative media, really finding ways to take action, really finding ways to take action. Because to just sit and bemoan what's happening is not going to help us. And I understand, I mean, sometimes we need to. Sometimes we're just in a crappy mood and we're like, this sucks. And I'm just going to complain about it in my apartment or whatever, right? But, we're really here to participate. And I don't mean you have to put so much on the line that you become a target of anything. Ooh, that card just flew out. Hold on. Because I know people are going to be worried about that. And some people will be a target of anything. But here's the card, the final card. We had 7 cards that wanted to show up. Heaven sent, right? Heaven sent. That doesn't mean this situation, the person who's going to take leadership over one of the most powerful countries in the world, is heaven sent. He is on his own spiritual journey. And I don't know why in this lifetime his soul chose to be a narcissist and all of those things. I don't know. I don't have those answers. But what I do know is that you and we can get answers about what our next step is, about how we can contribute, about how we can shine our light out there if we just tap in. It's going to be one of the most important things is to get yourself centered and grounded. You're probably going to see a lot of things that are triggering over these next 4 years. You're probably going to hear a lot of people talking in ways that are triggering. Maybe they bring up things about your family of origin or maybe a person that you knew. You're going to have to tap in and ground yourself. We're going to need a really strong connection with the universe, with source, with God, goddess, whatever you call it. And we're going to need to be very deeply grounded in ourselves, what we stand for, who we are, what matters, and where we can join into the fight and where we need to leave it alone and trust that other people are doing that. Because you can't do everything. You can't save the world. We don't need to be burnout as activists. But we actually can do small, personalized moments with other people and bring a different vibration into the world. So I felt really called to read just a little bit in the book. This is a number 33. It's a master number. And I want to just tap into this really quick and seeing what it's talking about here. I love these cards. They're so amazing. Okay. Just as we receive gifts in the physical world through the thoughtfulness of others to acknowledge how much we mean to them, so too do we receive gifts on other levels, including the spiritual level. A spiritual gift is something that happens through grace. We can ask for help. That was a theme, right? Receiving and asking for help. And may be given in response to that request. All requests for help are answered. A spiritual gift can also be given without us asking for anything at all, at least not consciously. Sometimes it's in our hearts that cry out for help. While we are busy getting on with our to-do lists, we don't often stop to think about what our hearts may need. If we do, and an immediate solution is not obvious, we just get on with life, either letting the issue be or taking a more painful option of dwelling on it without seeing how it might be received. However, there's a loving benevolence in life that knows exactly what we need and how it can best come to us, even when we are not quite so clear. This force actively seeks to assist us in walking our life path. This loving sweetness is being offered to you now, or soon will be in the form of a spiritual gift. And this gift is not just for individuals, although it's really important to know that we can just tap in at any time and get answers. And those answers might come in the form of a vision. You might hear something if you're clairaudient. You might smell something, a scent that reminds you of something. You might open a book to a certain page and there it is. There's an answer, an enlightenment to your issue or your question. It may be a synchronicity, something you see in a movie or on a billboard, but we can always ask, and asking is really powerful. And right now, I think we need to do a lot of asking. Some people like to do contemplative prayer. Some people like to do meditation. Some people like to walk, in the forest or in nature, whatever it is that you like to do. Ecstatic dance. That's one of my faves. You can get answers through that process of opening your heart and saying, I don't know what to do here. And this is about that vulnerability, right? It's like, I don't know what to do here. I want to pretend, we're all supposed to pretend as adults that we have all of our shit together. We certainly do not. I feel some days like I'm 12, right? Trying to navigate adulthood and I'm 52. So it's like, no, we open ourselves. We get vulnerable to the universe and we ask for what we need. And we can do this on a collective level. And I know there's a collective energy that's asking for a different type of leadership, a different type of structure, a society that's more equitable, a society where less people or no people are suffering, a society where human rights are actually practiced and not just spoken about. We have been asking for these things, and we will continue to have our heart asking for these things. And it matters. These small, energetic connections that we're making, tapping into each other all over the world, everyone who wants a different way. We will get there. Progress is slow. We have 8 billion people co-creating, and we don't agree with everyone, and we're not aligned with everyone. And some people disgust us, and some people are like, wow, they're amazing, and everything in between. And this is our journey as a soul on this planet at this time in human history. And I am sorry, my friends, that it's so challenging right now. But there is energy here for life restoration. There is energy if you're doing that shadow work, if you're clearing out old stuff from old patterns and old cycles and old relationships and old ways of being, that work will benefit you in the future. It is coming. And together, we can move this forward. There have been small groups of people throughout human history who have changed, dramatically changed, the world that we live in. And our time and our generations are no different. We have that power as well. We are extremely powerful beings. So I know that things are going to be really intense on Monday. And I just ask you to really do whatever kind of self-care you need. If you don't want to watch any of it, I probably will not watch any of it. Sometimes that's better. Like I said, being in nature, going into meditation, hanging out with people that you love and care about, finding ways to be positive in your own life, and standing up and speaking out and taking action and putting your beautiful gifts into the world, whatever you're doing, whatever sector of society you're working in or volunteering in or whatever it is that sparks yourself. It's just really important to know that that makes a difference. And I know it doesn't feel like that when things like this happen, but it really does. You are touching other people's lives. And that's all you're required to do. You're also being invited to receive, to be a gracious receiver, not always a giver, to receive the goodness, to find moments of joy, to find ways to relax, to find ways to care for yourself. And I just wish you the best, my friends. We are here. We are all together. We are going to take care of each other. We're going to get through this. It's all going to be okay. And thank you for tuning in. And I appreciate you out there shining your light. I feel you. And life will be restored. Yes, it will.